G'day everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to work on my very first digital compact cassette deck, the Optimus DCT-2000. Now before I get started on this unit, I just want to caution you all real quick that this is not my favorite format. I'm not going to say it never has been, but currently it is not my favorite format. In fact, I almost have contempt for this format at this point, but it's really nothing to do with the format itself. It's mostly to do with these out-of-control delusional sellers on eBay trying to get thousands and hundreds of dollars for these things. So yeah, not a fan. I really wanted to love this format when they came out in 92 or 93 or so, but it became apparent very quickly at the time that this format was never going to take off, so I lost interest really quickly. And I'll never understand why someone over at Philips didn't read the room, so to speak, and realize that they were just climbing a mountain they couldn't summit with this format. But that's neither here nor there. I'm here to see if I can try to get this working, but I will tell you right now, this is the worst of the worst when it comes to these DCC machines. They are infamous for being unrepairable, or next to unrepairable. You see, most DCC machines are based on the original Philips designs, so a lot of them will interchange boards and parts with each other. This one will not. This is a one-off built by Radio Shack in Texas, I do believe, and yeah, this one will not share parts with any other DCC model as easily as the rest of them will. And as if that wasn't bad enough, there's almost no service information available for these machines. So I'm just going to tell you right now, I give myself maybe a 5% shot at actually fixing this. Now, when it comes to DCC machines, what do you want to look for? Well, for one thing, never buy one of these specific models. The Optimus ones, just don't buy them. It's 2024, and yeah, there's just basically no hope for these machines if you get one in 2024, if you ask me. See, because these machines all came out in the early to mid-90s, they all rely heavily on those god-awful surface mount capacitors, and by now they have all failed. The ideal time to get one of these fixed and actually have a shot at the fix being successful is 15 years ago, when those capacitors first started failing. But here in 2024, forget about it. It's probably not going to happen. And it's probably not going to be happening on this one either. So very likely I just bought myself a brick here. But I'm going to use this for practicing my surface mount reworking abilities. So that's my intention here, is I just want to practice getting better at doing surface mount stuff. What's the complaint about this one? Well, the seller had no DCC tapes to test this with, so they tested with analog tapes, and apparently it passes no audio. I will tell you right now, that is textbook bad capacitors. So, yeah, we don't know if the digital part of it works at all, because that has not been tested by the previous, or by the seller I bought it from. So, what am I going to do with this? Well, whenever you get something like this that is absolutely guaranteed to have bad capacitors, what you really want to do is refrain from powering it up. What you should do is get one that has not been tested by the previous, or by the seller, and you should take delivery of it and then immediately bring it in for recapping. Don't turn it on, don't test it. This one I am going to test because I'm a glutton for punishment, and also because I know the seller did test this within the past month, so I'm not really hurting it anymore. But what happens with these bad capacitors is if they've been sitting around for a while and you suddenly give them a jolt of power for the first time in months or years, they'll puke all over. So, yeah, probably that's what's already happened in here, but who knows. As you can see, there is damage to it. Not only here, but the door has some damage too, to one of the hinges here, but I don't care about that. Did not come with a remote. I don't care. I'm not expecting to fix this. My expectations are low. It's important to go in with low expectations with this sort of thing, because I tend to have quite a quick temper when it comes to things that are not going my way when it comes to repairs. So I'm hoping that maybe if I go in with low expectations like that, then maybe I'll get a little bit less frustrated. But before I even plug this in, I want to get the cover off. And I want to see what I'm dealing with. Has it been worked on before, is what I want to know. Hopefully I can get this working. If I can, fine. If not, well, it's a good video subject. So what do we have going on in here? Well, I don't see anything obvious right away. I see a bunch of those god-awful surface mount capacitors. And I should mention the other thing I'm worried about is this head right here. See, the last thing you ever want to do on one of these decks is to try to demagnetize the head. It will kill them. It will kill them. Don't even do it once. So, yeah. Both of these boards over here have surface mount caps, and we're going to have to take a closer look at those by and by. I'm not sure which is the audio board and which isn't. But I can tell you those have not been worked on before, because it's still got the original capacitors. And I just hope I've got the capacitor stock to actually try and do something about this. Back when I decided to start working on this channel, I already decided that my budget for tape decks was going to be $100 for 2-head machines and $200 for 3-head machines. And included in the $200 for 3-head machines, I had DCC in with that. So that's how long it's taken for me to actually find one in budget. This one was $50 US, and then after shipping it came out to 150 Canadian. So I'm well in budget there. But you got to keep in mind I had to buy the digital tapes for this too. So I ended up going to the Netherlands. I bought 3 of them. So yeah, I've got tapes I can test this with. And it seems like the seller had quite an eclectic taste here. I've got some classical on this one. Looks like we've got Metallica on this one. And looks like maybe Smashing Pumpkins on this one. Interesting. So I'm going to try the classical one, probably, and that's that. But I need to do my inspection here. See what we can see, as it were. And yes, this will probably not be the last one of these I have on my channel. I'm going to try and find another one that's a little more service-friendly than this one. Let's plug in the analog outputs here, and we'll see if we can get anything out of her. Like I said, expectations very, very low right now. Home theater is fired up, so we'll be using that. Don't expect any audio to come out of this thing. It's very unlikely. But we're going to fire her up right now and see if we can get her to do anything. But like I said, don't do this yourself if you're ever hoping to have something that ends up working. Like I said, jolting these capacitors for the first time in months can cause them to fail and puke all over. So yeah, don't do what Donnie Don't does. Alright, power's on. Got no tape over here, the display's working. Okay, we'll try analog first. And I'll give you another disclaimer. Do not use just any audio tape in here. In fact, it's probably best if you didn't try to use an analog audio tape. Yes, I know they're backwards compatible, but that doesn't mean it's a good idea. That's one of the things Philips wasn't quite thinking about when they invented this format. They made it backwards compatible, yes, but they tend not to like low quality tapes, and they will clog the heads. So I'm going to put my chrome test tape in there. And gonna have to rewind. It's moving tape in there. So that part's working. Okay, let's hit play and see what happens. Nothing. And nothing. Seller was accurate in his portrayal of this unit. It does not play analog. Let's see if the digital works, shall we? These tapes are actually pretty cool. And I will hand it to Philips. It is actually quite a technical marvel that they managed to make one of these hold digital audio, even if the format is completely inferior to what Sony was doing with their RDAT technology. Well, I shouldn't say completely inferior. These use a stationary head, which is actually a good thing. RDAT machines can be complicated to fix. All right, digital tape about to go in. Checking tape. Okay, it looks like it did something. And we might have a dud on our hands here. I'll wind into it a bit and see what happens. Yeah, I'm going to say this machine is FUBAR. But I will try one of the other test tapes just to be certain. Oh, there's that smell. Yeah, it's got bad capacitors. I'm not doing Metallica. I'm not going to even try to do Metallica. That's asking for trouble. It is playing, but nothing's coming out. It is time to get into this and see just what level of fresh hell I talked myself into with this. I'm just going to leave that open. So the transport is out and I am already finding problems. Let me show you here. See that? Corrosion on the bottom of the chassis. Well, that's not even the worst of it. Let me show you what I found underneath here. Let's see if I can do this in a way that protects the heads. So this here is the read-write, blah, 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 blah. It's the read-write board. Can you see the corrosion? Right there. That's electrolyte. So we've got a bunch of surface mount capacitors here that all need to be changed. That's assuming they can be changed at this point. I'm not even sure. A lot of 10 volt, 68 microfarad parts, it looks like. Along with some 10 microfarad, 16 volt parts. I think I've got all those. Couple of 4.7s at 16. Those look bipolar, so I've got those, but I'm going to have to use Nikon Muse for that, because that's all I've got. See, my main concern with stuff like this is some of these boards are multi-layer, and once these capacitors start puking, they can, if they're in the wrong spot where this electrolyte comes out, they can actually eat through into the middle layers, and once that happens, they're done. Good luck repairing it, ever. So yeah, basically this is probably why the machine won't recognize or read a DCC tape right now. This looks very badly damaged. Okay, so I've got all three boards out that need to be worked on. And we're just going to have a look at them all together. But before we get to the microscope part of this, what I wanted to do was fire up the ESR meter, and we'll just go through and see just what we're dealing with here. Let's just see how many of these measure bad at all. So, as you can see, I've taken precautions for static. I've got my anti-static thing set up here. I'll just zero out my ESR meter. I put new probes on this thing. I've got needle probes on it now. I thought it was a little more useful this way. So, how's about we start with the read-write board? These are actually in order in the way they're installed in the machine, just so I can keep them straight, but yeah. We'll start with this board, the important one. Alright, where are the traces here? 17 ohms. Bad. Open. 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 So all four of these have failed. That one's still clinging to life by its fingernails, but it's bad. And these three, there's nothing there. Nobody home. They're dead. So let's try this 4.7 bipolar here. $12 ohms. Bad. $11 ohms. Actually, those might not be too bad, but they all have to go. Just trying to see where the leads, or where the pins are on these little guys here. Open. 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 So, the only two on this board that are actually even still remotely working are these two. Well, I guess this one too, but it's so far out of spec it might as well be dead. So all of these have to be replaced, every single one of them. Now you know why I don't like getting into this early 90s stuff. Okay, we'll do this board next. This is the one that connects back to this board through this big long ribbon cable. Not exactly sure what it does. See if I can get a good position on it. Okay, that one's open. That one's not open, but 16 ohms. Open. Open. Open sesame. Open sesame seeds. Open. Oh boy, this is really, really bad. I'm gonna amend my initial statement. I gave myself a 5% chance of fixing this. I'm going down to 0%. Stuff like this, I just automatically cut loose in the past because it's not worth it. But Considering I paid $150 just to find this out. Ooh, that one's good. I can hardly believe it. We actually found a good one. Yeah, that one's meh. Actually, most of these look like they're half decent yet. He said right before finding another open one. And I wish you could smell what I'm smelling. Well, actually, no, I don't wish that. I don't wish that on my worst enemy. So we have tons of bad capacitors to replace here. Tons of them. Let's see, what am I dealing with here? A lot of 10 volt, or 16 volt, 10 microfarad. A couple of 4.7 bipolars. And these 68s down here. Now, I am prepared for this, sort of. I found these from a seller in Bulgaria. These are Oscon polymer capacitors. And I don't know why I had to have these for this particular machine, because they're worth more than the entire machine is at this point, but I'll throw some of these in and we'll see if we can get her going. I'm going to try to set up here so that... oh God, I hate that smell. I'm going to try to set this up so we can remain relatively stable and I'm not jerking you around trying to shoot video on this thing. We'll see if this works. Let me set up and I'll get back with you in a jiffy. Alright, here we are with the microscope. And I use that term loosely. Just having a look at the read-write board now. I'm seeing what looks to be a damaged via, which is the last thing you want to see on stuff like this. Let me see if I can get a dental pick in there to do something here. Okay, so coming down here, this is where the worst of it is. I'm not even going to try to clean that off with the microscope because I need to be very careful around that area because of that surface mount capacitor right there. There's another via that looks like it's been damaged. And I'll remind you that every single one of these has failed, and it's kind of hard to see, but there's clearly electrolyte in between those capacitors. Let me see if I can get my flashlight in there. Yeah, that is damaged. No damage there, thank God. Oh, this is nasty. And before anyone says it, I know the DCC museum has replacements now for this read-write board. I'm not sure I'm interested in that either, because I just don't like this format enough to get it fixed for the expense it would cost me to send that down there and have that done. If I can't fix it myself, it's going to sit on a shelf or it's going to go in for recycling. Yeah, there is an extreme amount of damage to this unit. And the worst of it appears to be on the read-write board. So yeah, we're going to have to get to work on this. Now, we'll start talking about various methods of getting these capacitors off the board. The best way to work on stuff like this is to use hot tweezers. In terms of soldering iron hot tweezers. But I don't have one of those. What they basically do is they go in and just go in from either side and just heat up both joints at once so you can just pull it straight off the board. Another way you can do it is to use hot air. You can hot air these things and just pull them off that way. But I don't like using that method, and I'll tell you why. It's because when you start blasting these capacitors with hot air, sometimes they can swell up and then blow that way. and get electrolyte everywhere. So I tend to not like hot air. Another way you can do this is by cutting these things off. That's kind of the way 12 Volt Vids does his. And I'm not exactly sure if I'm on board with that methodology or not, but it clearly works for him, so I don't know. It probably works well enough. And next method is use a soldering iron, and I've prided myself on getting these off with a traditional soldering iron in the past, but I'm not even going to attempt that this time. There's just too many of them. And that leaves the final method, the twist-off method, and that's probably what I'm going to be using. In fact, I'm going to try doing one on camera with you guys right now. Now, in order to do this method, which I've never done before, so you'll have to forgive me if you think I'm doing it wrong. It's very possible I'm doing it wrong. So I'm going to try to get rid of this one first, because it's easiest. Now, in order to do the twist-off method, what you want to do is push down, then twist maybe a quarter turn this way and then back, and then this way and back. Maybe do that a couple times, and then it should come off. The leads on these things are very fragile, so shouldn't take much to actually do this. But we'll find out for sure. Actually, I'm not even going to do a quarter turn. I'm going to do 1/8 of a turn. It's not released yet, I can tell. This is one of the better ones on the board, so it's going to be my practice mule. Come on, let go. Thank you. All right. Yeah, that one's been leaking. I can tell. Anyhow, I've got 4 more of those, or 3 more of those to do, and then I got to do all the little ones, and I'm actually not sure anymore that these 4.7s are bipolar. They might not be. There is a clear polarization mark on them. So, yeah, I don't know. I'll try normal 4.7s first and whatnot, and then we'll see what happens. So I'm taking a quick break here from capacitor removal just to show you just how god-awful this is. Look at this. Every single one of those bottom capacitors leaked. All of them. Every single one. So here's the end result. I got her done, I think. Been a while since I've done this kind of thing, so you'll have to forgive me if it looks a little messy, but I think it's all finished. I can't be sure till I get it back together and test, but these two 4.7s up here are Panasonic FC. These ones here are Nikon PY, I think. Not exactly sure. Anyhow, and the Oscons are the Oscon polymers, of course, so you've already been introduced to them. So I hope we've got a successful result here. So, yeah, I just hope it's all good now. We're going to find out real quick here. And there's the old capacitors right there. Destined for the garbage. So, how about I get this back together and we'll see if anything else actually comes to life on this machine. Well, folks, we're about to find out if my repair was successful. Like I said before, I very much doubt it was. I've left one of these doohickeys out, and there's a screw I can't figure out where it goes just yet, but it should be back together well enough for testing. And if you were worried about whether or not those capacitors all fit back there, those big Oscons, they're fine. They do fit. There's a notch in the plate back there that they're kind of sitting in, so no problems there. But we got to figure out just what we accomplished with this. So, unit is plugged in, power on, no tape. Of course there's no tape because I didn't put one in. We'll try analog first again. See if it does anything now. Okay, I've got the remote for my home theater here in case I need to unmute it real quick. Nothing there. So before we get started on our fun for day 2, I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update. This thing got a little squirrely on me last night. See, I was looking at my pictures of the audio board, which is this one right here, and I noticed it had another capacitor just like the 4.7s I changed out on the read-write board. And on this board, the polarity is marked on every capacitor except that one, which is marked as being bipolar. So I figured, oh crap, I got to get back in there and replace those with bipolar caps. So I did that. I grabbed my Nikon Muse here. This is the only thing I've got in 4.7 bipolar that'll fit. And I installed them. And then I decided to test right away and put a tape in, and it said no tape. So I thought, uh-oh, I screwed something up big time. I tried a DCC tape, didn't work, no tape. So I got back in there, I fired those FC capacitors back in there, and put it all back together again, and no tape. So I thought, well, that was weird. So I threw a DCC back in there, and it started checking the tape. And it checked the tape, and it checked the tape, and it kept checking the tape, and wouldn't come out of checked tape. So, very strange behavior, I thought. So, I did what any good tech does. I started thumping around on the circuitry. I started with this board. I basically did that. Nothing. And then I did the same over here. That got it. Suddenly it stopped checking the tape and read it as being digital again. So, there's another issue over here. Now, I have taken these boards both out, and I've cleaned the connectors down in there. That made no difference. So, here's the deal. This thing doesn't want to play any tapes or even do anything at all with the transport unless I've got these doohickeys in place. So, what does that tell me? Well, very likely there's a bad solder joint under there. I can't see anything on this board being the cause of that otherwise. There's a little socketed chip in there that might be the cause of that, but I tend to doubt it because, yeah, downward pressure from those brackets seems to fix that problem. So I may have to pull that board out and fix on it, but first things first, we got to get these two boards recapped. Then we'll see if we get audio back, and if we get audio back, then yeah, we can deal with the motherboard or something after that. But yeah, fun times. I just love working on this 90s technology. No, not really, but what are you gonna do? Okay, I finally got done cleaning up the audio board, and before I continue on and put the new parts in, there's a few things I want to go over before I actually continue, so I've got them fresh in my mind and I can tell you about them. I gotta tell you, this board was a whole other level of fresh hell from the read-write board, so I'm going to suggest that if you're going to get into this, do the read-write board first. It's a little more forgiving for errors, as it were. But yeah, I found a lot of issues once I got this board cleaned up. Let me see if I can show you a little better. Try and get my magnifier in there. Okay, where is my pointing device, aka dental pick? Right in front of my face. Okay, so this area around here is very delicate. Do not go in there with a Q-tip. What I strongly suggest you do is buy some of these microfiber swabs. These are critical for this kind of work. I found that once I got in there with the microfiber swabs, I was able to deal with that area a little better. But there are some broken connections, it looks like, on this transistor. I don't know if they're broken. They looked real bad at first, but after I've cleaned up the area, they look like they might actually still be connecting. But it's this pin right here. It travels up and around underneath this capacitor, I think, to this resistor here. I think that's a resistor, I'm not sure. Anyway, I happened to have a brainwave this morning, and I looked up the Philips DCC-900 schematics, and I found that a lot of this is exactly the same, right down to the capacitor labels. So what these capacitors are responsible for, at least a couple of them, are the reference voltage for this chip. So yeah, if those don't work, obviously the whole machine's not going to work too well. So yeah, this was the area of the major damage. I found electrolyte right up in here, and also down beside the transistor here and underneath the transistor. And fortunately, all of these traces look like they're okay. Now, if I get it together and I still have no audio, then I will have to take this back out and have another look-see. But I'm not going to get into trying to resolder those connections unless I absolutely have to. So, I think some of these capacitors are, I don't know what you're looking at here. Sorry. I think some of these capacitors here are output coupling caps for the audio. So, I was debating actually using Nikon Muse in all these areas, but yeah, there's no point doing it to anything that's handling the reference voltage to that chip. So basically only one Muse is going in, and that is this guy right here. It's the only bipolar 2.2 I have to replace this one on the end here. So yeah, if you're going to get into this kind of work, crank up your iron nice and hot, because it has to get through a bunch of old dried up corrosive electrolyte first in order to get to these traces, but eventually you'll get them. Just don't panic, take your time, be very, very patient, and just go through them one at a time, clean them all up, and yeah, only then can you actually see what's going on with the actual traces themselves. So yeah, thankfully the DCC-900 is close enough to this configuration that I was able to figure out what these capacitors do and what these transistors do. Like this one here, the one with the possibly damaged traces, that one's critical. So yeah, if it don't work after I'm done, then I'm going to have to take another look at these traces. But I'm feeling cautiously optimistic. I'm still not that optimistic. I still give myself only about a 5% chance of getting this thing going again, but I'm going to keep going, and I'll get back with you when I can. Alright folks, here's the lay of the land. My audio board is officially dead. There's no fixing it. At least, no way I can find to fix it. I got it working better. I did find an open connection. I'm going to try and show it to you. I don't know if I can. You see that right there by that transistor? Right there? That's a jumper wire. There was no connection between that one pin. I forget if it's the cathode or the emitter, but of that transistor, but there was no connection between it and the resistor next door, which there should have been. I fixed that. The machine is acting better. It's going between analog and digital better the way it's supposed to be, I think. I'm not sure. But there's still no audio getting through, and I cannot find the problem. Alright folks, I decided to take one more stab at the can, as it were, and I found another damaged via. Badly corroded. It happens to connect to this positive for this capacitor, and it's that one right there. I couldn't get a connection either at the top of the board or on the other side of the via. So I tried to solder a jumper wire to the other side of the via, which is right there. Couldn't get the solder to stick. So I went back to the DCC-900 schematics, and I started looking around for those two capacitors on the other side of the board there. And I found that they connect to this chip, or at least the one that I'm looking at connects to this chip. So I did some testing between this via and all these parts down here, and I found it connects to this side of this capacitor and also both of these two resistors down here, which also come down to pin 3 of this chip down here. So what I've done is I've soldered a jumper wire. So we're going to see if that works. Back again with the read-write board. I didn't find any bad vias or any bad traces at all, but on closer inspection to this other side of the board, I did find two corroded potentiometers. That would be this one right here and this one. This one cleaned up just fine. This one took a little bit of doing. I had to get in there with the Deoxit D100 to get this one to work. Otherwise, it's the same pot as this one over here, except this one measured in the kilo ohms and this one measured in the mega ohms. So it seems to be reading fine now, so will that fix it? Doubtful. But I'm going to get it back together and try and test again. All right, folks, I think I might have found the problem with at least this deck not being able to read any digital or audio cassettes. I found a damaged via on the read-write board. It was real hard to find because it looked good, but I think I found it. Let's see if I can show you here. I may not be able to. Let's see, it is right there. My pick's right on top of it. It looked good under the microscope, but when I tested it from the other side, there's no connection going through. And this connects to, let's see, it comes back to here, C135, and it's responsible for the plus 5 volt read voltage, I believe they call it, in the Philips service manual. I don't know for sure if this is entirely compatible with the schematics in the Philips service manual or not, but it seems like it is. So yeah, this is supposed to come back to that via, and it's supposed to go through to the other side and connect to pin 15 of this ribbon cable. So there's effectively a voltage missing from here. At least I think. I'm not sure. I'm going to try to fix this, but this is going to require some very fine wire soldering, and I don't know if I've got the wire to solder. And I can't attach it to the via itself because I just had really bad luck doing that on the audio board when I found the broken connection there. So what I'm going to have to do is solder directly to the connector itself down here somewhere. I just need to find the via again. But it has been tested twice, and it's measured open twice. So, yeah, I'm going to have to find that and see if I can fix it. I don't know if I like my chances, but, yeah, basically it has to be done. It kind of looks like this pot's a little corroded, too. Maybe I should measure that. All right, people, I think I got it. I've got a solid connection now between the positive of this capacitor and pin 15 of this ribbon cable. So hopefully this thing works now, because I can't find any other problems anywhere else on this board. I've checked and checked every single via in the vicinity of these capacitors, and none of them seem to be bad. So hopefully we got it now. If not, I'm kind of thinking that's it, screw it. But yeah, I'm going to put this back together now, and we're going to test, and we're going to see if this thing actually plays anything now. I still give myself maybe 5% chance at best, but we'll give it a shot. All right, I found yet another bad connection on the audio board. I don't know why I keep trying to torture myself with this unit at this point. Anyhow, you can see the other jumper wire I installed. This one goes to the other side of the board. It actually goes to the PLL op amp, that one right there. That's where it joins. And yeah, the via that originally went to that connection was down here. And that was all rotted out. And I found another one that was rotted out over here at C427, this one right here. It looks real bad under the microscope, but somehow it's still making a connection. However, this capacitor and this big green one here are in parallel, or they're supposed to be. And I decided to go ahead and trace where this leg of the capacitor went, because I was trying to evaluate the connection between this leg here and this side of that capacitor, because they're supposed to be connected. And I found an issue. I've got a capacitor removed here. Anyhow, it's supposed to join up to this resistor right here, that one leg of the green capacitor, and that is open. So I get to install yet another jumper wire, and I don't know exactly where this via goes on the other side. I know it's making contact on this side, but it runs underneath the connector here, so I don't know exactly if this will fix it. It probably won't. Oh, this thing is the gift that keeps on giving. Alright, so one last segment on this thing before I edit the video for a 5th time and get it ready for Saturday. I've just got no more time to work on this. Well, I've got more time, but I've actually got no more interest to work on this at the present, so I finally got smart and I decided to throw the scope on this thing and check what was coming out of the read-write board. And I've got the meter here for checking voltages, but I found out some interesting stuff when it comes to the read-write board. Let's see if I can find my notes here. So, assuming that this board down here is basically the same pin layout as the DCC-900, I've got some more information thanks to the scope. RD clock, pin 9, is present. 3 megahertz, 4.4 volts peak to peak. It's a square wave, I do believe. Can't remember offhand. RD sync, pin 11, 307 kilohertz, it's there. RD mux, pin 7, dead. W data, pin 3, 1.175 megahertz, present. However, that waveform doesn't quite look exactly as clean as I would like it to be. I'm not sure if there's something going on there or not. I can only imagine how much of a pain it is to try and figure out what that is. Analog left and right, both dead. So with analog left and right not working, and with RD mux not working, that's the digital audio output, that tells me that the read chip is not functioning. So what I did was, I took my multimeter, and I got in there. You see that red jumper wire? That's the 5-volt read voltage. That's supposed to come into the board and probably supply that chip and tell it to start reading from the heads. Well, that voltage was not present. And with it not being present, I had to go back to the audio board where this white ribbon cable plugs in. So, as you can see, I found and fixed yet another broken connection on the audio board. So now I've effectively got that voltage all the way back to the read-write board. It is there now. It's reading about 3.5 volts or 3.3 volts or something like that. So I don't know if this board runs at a lower voltage on that pin than the Philips unit does, or whether or not I had my ground on a spot that doesn't allow for the full voltage to be read. But I do know the voltage is there now, so yeah. Unfortunately, that still has not fixed it. So what I did was I got back into the scope here, and I started checking all those voltages, or checking all those outputs again. Once again, analog left and right are both dead, along with RD mux. So that chip back there is still not working. So the plan from here is to take this board back off yet again and try to figure out what the heck is going on. I suspect there's probably still a connection broken between the 5 volt read or 3.3 volt read or whatever the heck it is in this model and the chip itself. So I'm going to check that next. And while I'm at it, I'm going to check every voltage input to that chip everywhere just to see if everything is getting its proper connection. So yes, clearly this thing has a real big problem with broken connections, even when they look good. So yeah, from here it's just a matter of tracing all the circuits and trying to figure out what's going on. And by the way, I believe this is the right chip. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, I'm not concerned with getting this unit to record just yet. I wanted to get it to play first. So that's my priority. I have been at this thing for days and days and days. I'm really not interested in doing anything more to this before the video goes live on Saturday. So this is the final segment you guys are going to see, whether or not I get back in here and work on this or not. If I get into this again and I find the problem and I fix it before Saturday, I will leave a pinned comment in the comments as to what I found. But this is going to be it for the video segments. I've literally been into this thing for 2 weeks now, trying to figure out exactly what's going on with it, and I've just been finding problem after problem after problem. So I needed to take a step back from this unit and unplug and just do something else for a while, like work on the Technics RSB 755, which is in the middle of a job now. So yeah, I may or may not still be able to get this working. I'm still not feeling very optimistic, but I'm making progress, slowly but surely. But yeah, that's going to be it for today, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.